Hi everyone, I'm Matt from the Koi Place. Today we're going to discuss salt and when we use salt and what we advise to use salt for. We're going to do it old fashioned, we're going to do it on the whiteboard. I'll zoom into the whiteboard so you can see what I'm doing, and also we'll keep it old school because we're in the fish house, so let's do it in the fish house. First of all, a bit of myth busting. Koi themselves have a salt level in the body of 0.9%. So the koi is 0.9%. That's their salt level in the body. They have to maintain 0.9%, and they do that through osmoregulation, and the kidney function and the gill action. Seawater, so everyone that says koi are not saltwater fish, why are you putting salt in? Seawater. Seawater is 3.5% of salt. Now, very rarely will we go over 0.6 of salt. That is seawater, 3.5%. So it's a lot. That's that per ton. That is 35 kilos per ton of water per 1,000 litres. That's how high salt water is. So I've got down my list here, just so I don't forget what we're doing. Right, where do we use salt? When do we use salt? It's winter now, so we like to put salt in. If the water temperature is below 13 degrees C, we'll put salt in. The reason being is the koi immune system below 13 degrees C is shot. They're not producing any white blood cells, so we want to help them as best we can to maintain that 0.9% of salt in the bodies. And the way we could do that is we'll put it to 0.5% maximum. So winter, we'll go between, we'll say 0.3 to 0.6, but we'll stay around 0.5. And what salt does is it helps with the slime coat of the fish. So anything to help them get through that winter period, to help the immune system, we will do. We also heat this room in here. This is heated to 12 degrees C, so the water temperature over winter can vary between 8 degrees C and maybe 13, 14 on a good day. But generally the water temperature today is 10.5, so it's not warm. So our salt water at the moment is set at 0.5%. So that's 5 kilos per 1,000 litres. Bearing in mind, that's nowhere near seawater. Seawater is 35 kilos per tonne. We're only going to 0.5. Nowhere near seawater. Anyway, when else do we use salt? We like to use it for blanket weed. So we don't use these off-the-shelf blanket weed treatments. I'm sure I need glasses, I can't even read what I'm writing. So blanket weed, first of all, we'll try, and if we catch the blanket weed early, we'll put 0.1 of salt. So that is 1 kilo per 1,000 litres. We'll leave it to run for a week or two. If it doesn't solve it, we'll go put another 0.1% in, up to 0.3. But generally, 0.1 will get rid of the blanket weed. Next, nitrite. So if you're starting off a new pond and you're going through the new pond syndrome, your ammonia comes up, then your nitrite comes up, everyone does big water changes. We do the opposite. We like to keep that nitrite in there because that's seeding the bacteria. The bacteria have got to come up high. That's the food for the bacteria, so we need it in there in order for that bacteria to get to the level for that amount of fish. But the problem is that affects the fish, so it can stop the fish controlling the salt levels within the body, and through osmoregulation we will bring this up to between 0.1 and 0.3 again, depending on how high that nitrite is. If it's only very low, we'll put 0.1, so 1 kilo per 1,000 litres per tonne, and we'll just let that naturally run out with the water changes, but we very rarely do big water changes to get rid of the nitrite. Unless it's scary levels, then we'll leave it in there and we'll put the salt in, and that works perfect. Next, we have got medication. I think my marker pen's running out. So to medicate, there's a few instances why you'd medicate with salt. The first one is sleeping sickness. That is immune response to the fish. It's a virus that's carried by older fish. If younger fish get it, usually up to 1 year old, they can die within a week. It sends them into a coma. To cure sleeping sickness, the ideal treatment is bring the temperature up and also put 0.6 to 0.75 of salt, and that'll, within a week or two, that'll sort the sleeping sickness out and the fish will be fine. So sometimes when you buy baby fish in springtime, and then you put them in the pond, and within a couple of weeks the line on the bottom, that is sleeping sickness. If you don't do anything then, you've lost them. Also, so that's sleeping sickness. I know my writing's awful, but I'm writing on a slope here. And I'm also kneeling on a pallet. Right, so next one is, if we've got koi that have damaged themselves, we've got a lot of koi here, we can have up to 1,000 plus koi. When you feed them, they're bashing themselves about, they're jumping. To help them heal, we'll go between 0.3, we'll put 0.3 of salt in first, and we'll go up to 0.6, depending on how bad those injuries are that they've got. But we usually find as the temperature comes up, once we're above 18 degrees C, any knocks and bashes they get heal themselves, we don't have to put any salt in. It's that between 15 and 18 is usually when we see the issues where they're not healing very well. Anything less than 18, they struggle to heal. The other time you can use salt is to calculate your pond. So you can put a set amount of salt into your pond. And what you can use is a salt meter or a refractometer. I'm struggling to write again. Right, and so say you roughly work out your pond to be, 4,500 litres, 1,000 gallons. If you put 3 kilos per 1,000 litres in, and then work out the percentage of salt, then you want to get it to 0.3, and then you can roughly work out the gallons of your pond. So there is some online calculators to work that out as well. I'll show you, I'll go and get my salt meters and show you what we use to double check our salt levels. The other time you can treat with salt is parasites. We generally don't treat for parasites with salt, but to treat parasites you're looking at 0.6 to 0.75. At which point, after 2 or 3 weeks, the parasites will be dying off, but you shouldn't be keeping salt in your pond at a high level because the parasites could build up an immune response to it. Anyway, I'll go and get my salt meters, I'll show you what we do. These are our salt meters. We've got a refractometer. These are brilliant. You calibrate them every so often, but dead easy to calibrate. You put a bit of your pond water on there with a pipette, and then you look through the binocular, and it's a graduated scale. It'll give you percentage or parts per thousand. Dead easy to use. I love these. These are so reliable. Bane of my life, digital meters. I hate them. I never trust them. I'm always calibrating them. To calibrate them, you can buy a saline solution, but I just make one up and with some PDV salt. So it's 3 grams per 1 litre of water, and then you can adjust, you can calibrate it. Dead easy, but I never trust them. I like the manual way. Anyway, I know roughly where our ponds sit at, so because we're running winter now, I'll be at 0.5%. So I'll show you how to use these, dead simple. The rest of the time we don't generally run salt in the systems, especially when I've got my plants in here and I water my plants and I'll forget that there's salt in there. But joking aside, mainly our quarantine systems will be running salt as we get new fish in. We'll run them through treatments and then we'll finish them off with salt, and it really helps them get through that transportation that they've done from Japan. So let me show you. We'll test it. The water here, I kind of know where it's going to be at because I've been adding salt weekly, but we have been doing filter cleans and water changes. So we'll do that. Let's get going. Before I do the test, one thing to note is when you've got salt in your pond, don't put other treatments in. It could react with the salt. So if we're running salt and we have to do a parasite treatment, for instance malachite and formalin for white spot, then we'll run that salt out. We prefer to use the other chemical rather than upping the salt level. So we'll take that salt out and then we'll run that pond treatment. But yeah, it's fairly safe to use this salt. We've never had an issue with salt, so let's get this tested. First of all, we'll use the digital meter. So I calibrated this not long ago, and we just turn it on. We dip it in the water there. Let me see if I can zoom in and get the figure. So that's saying 4.4. That's parts per thousand, so that's 0.44%. So well within where I want to be at. I want to be 0.5 ideally. So by the time I get to another 3 or 4 days, I'll do a filter clean. I'll put a bit more salt in. We'll go just above 0.5. So perfect. Right, the refractometer. I can't actually show you the. I've tried zooming in on the on here, but it's so difficult. But basically, to use this, you get a bit of pond water. You drop it on here. You flip that down. Hold it up to the light, and you look through here. Let's see if we can see anything. I don't think I will, but it's not going to show it. So difficult. But there you go. Almost. It's very difficult, but I'll just check it now. That's showing 0.5. Perfect. And the fish are looking good. And you can see the water temperature in here is 10.5 degrees C, and the fish are asking for food. They love having salt in. Now if the salt wasn't in, they'll be moping about a bit. They won't be interested as much as in the food. So it shows that the salt does do something. You know, the body's not working as hard, so the fish are a little bit happier. I hate it when they go down to 7 degrees C and then they're sat on the bottom. The last thing I want fish to do is to sit on the bottom getting sores. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. And here's the workings out. So again, when you see on the internet people say, why are you putting salt in koi, not saltwater fish? Well, no, they're not saltwater fish, but the salt within the body is 0.9%. Seawater is 3.5%. 35 kilos per 1,000 litres of water. So if I were to make all these ponds saltwater, I'd have to put in 600 kilos of salt, which is, that shows you it's just a ridiculous amount of salt to make it seawater. So we're nowhere near that. But these you've got your winter 0.3 to 0.6, ideally 0.5. Blanket weed, if you've got blanket weed issues, you don't have to buy these expensive powdered treatments that send your pond cloudy for weeks on end. You just buy salt, put salt in, put 1 kilo per 1,000 litres in to start with, give it a couple of weeks. If it's not making any difference, put another 1 kilo per 1,000 litres. It still soon kills it. Nitrite poisoning, you know, if your nitrite comes up 0.1 to 0.3, depending on how high your nitrite is and how your fish are looking. Generally, if you've got fish in there that the nitrite's built up over time, so say you're coming out of winter, you start feeding, the nitrite builds up, the fish will be fine for a while, as long as it's not too high. They're used to that high nitrite level. But if you go and buy a new fish and put them into high nitrite, that's when the issues start. Medication, sleeping sickness, you have to put salt in. You're not going to cure sleeping sickness without putting salt in. It's 0.6 to 0.75, and a couple of weeks and the fish are like nothing happened, whereas they look like they're almost on death's door. If you're healing up ulcers and wounds, obviously you have to check for parasites first before you add salt. If there's no parasites present, then put your salt in. And you've got to calculate your pond volume, you can use salt, work out roughly how much in. But, you know, to be honest, the very amount of salt is so varied, so you can go from 0.1 to 0.75. A rough approximate of your pond volume is not an issue. If you know, you don't have to be to the gallon. It's not like you're putting malachite and formalin in it. Salt, you've got a massive variation. One thing to know is when you add salt to the pond, what you can do is you can mix it up in a bucket first and then pour it in, or if you've got a large pond, just spread it evenly. You don't want any piles of salt in there. Let's go and have a look at the fish. Rather than listen to me, you may as well listen to me and look at the fish. So, in terms of, if I'm putting a bag of salt in all these, I'll spread it between all the ponds. So there's a small amount in each one, and it'll dissolve over a few hours. But then I won't check the percentage until the following week. Well, the fish are happy. I don't think I've missed anything off. I don't think so. Salt can only be taken out of your system by doing your water changes and putting fresh water in. So it is good to have a salt meter handy. These refractometers, they're dirt cheap. I think that one was about £15. They vary between £10 and £50. You don't have to go mad on them. They're not an overcomplicated bit of equipment. Yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, we use salt. We have done for the last 20 years. No issues. I'll give you a quick view of the fish. Happy in the salt. They've been fed a few hours ago, so they're not that interested at the moment. But they will come up and look for some. If I put some in, they'll eat it. Well, thanks for watching. If you've got any issues regarding the salt amounts that you should be putting in your pond, just send me a text. Send me a text through WhatsApp and I'll guide you through it. Alright, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks.